West Coast Racers is the newest coaster operating at Six Flags Magic Mountain and has received great praise among guests since opening. Developed by Premier Rides, the same company who made Full Throttle, the ride officially opened to all guests on January 9th, 2020. With the coaster came updates to the surrounding shops, food locations, current attractions, and so much more, ultimately bringing back life to this corner of the park. Hi everyone, Theme Park Tracker here, and in this video we're going to talk about why West Coast Racers might be the best coaster in the park. First off, let's talk about the theming for this ride, which I'm sure many agree was really well done. The shops and restaurants were all repainted and got new signage. The midway was repainted to mimic a street, and they have striped lines for roadways and parking spaces, all tying into the car theme. Surrounding attractions like Cyclone 500, now called Pacific Speedway, were repainted and had the course slightly altered due to West Coast Racers taking up the area. Yes, the theming outside the ride may not influence the ranking of the ride as much as the theming of the queue. You first enter under the West Coast Racers archway and enter a traditional switchback queue outside that has some poster facts about West Coast Customs and their history. You then enter the station building, which is built to mimic a garage with a replica car on the show floor and big TV screens fitted together to look like a garage door. When turned on, show West Coast Custom crew members working on a car and painting the panels for the actual ride vehicles in their shop. They also have many other elements and props that resemble what you would find at West Coast Custom's shop down in Burbank, California. It was all really well done, and I'm sure West Coast Customs had a lot of input into the design for this station and making sure it accurately represents their brand. The queue, especially inside the station building, was well thought out and has the modern feel to it. Even the handrails inside had that modern design to it with the metal strings traveling underneath. I remember the first time entering this building with a group of people and everyone was in awe over how good it looked. This queue is a huge plus for this ride, and possibly one of the best themed queues in the park. Next, although technically not a part of the coaster, still represents the area, and that is the entire land the park created for this new ride called the Underground. Not many other coasters in the park have a dedicated land to it, and what they created here was well done. They were able to turn the old Cyclone Bay area into this beautiful new themed area to racing. Almost everything in this area was updated, like the restaurant buildings and go-karts, thanks to the arrival of West Coast Racers. Magic Mountain didn't just receive a new ride for the year, they also got a completely revamped area with new food, shops, and activities. Now, let's talk about the loading and operations. I have probably said this many times in previous videos about this ride, but the loading process and operations on this ride are some of the best in the park. Let's start off with heading up the spiral staircase and into where you'd place your bags down. This ride does not feature lockers, and guests simply put their bags in bins like on most of the coasters in the park. What makes it unique on this ride is guests put their bags in the bins before they are let through the air gates. This is done by having the load and unload on the same side. You may be thinking, isn't that slower because the guests behind the gates have to wait for those on the train to get off? Yes, but it's significantly faster than having people cross the train and then put their bags in the bins on the opposite side of the station, while at the same time trying to find space for your stuff while those getting off the ride are trying to find their stuff. The new method they introduced in this ride is way more efficient in my opinion. Guests just sit down on the train as soon as the gates open. Another great thing about this ride is it features an onboard storage pouch to put belongings like your keys, cell phone, and wallet. It provides a greater sense of security and safety for guests since you don't have to worry about losing it on the ride or in the bins while you're riding. This is something that is slowly being implemented to other rides in the park, and it's already found on rides like Twisted Colossus, Full Throttle, and of course this ride. The next great thing about this attraction is the operations and the dispatch times, which are helped by the bag system, but the trains being short in length means there are less rider restraints to check, meaning the train can be sent out much faster. The racing element of this attraction is key, and yes, the other train in the pit stop won't launch until the loading train is ready, but the goal here is to decrease the time in which that train is waiting in the pit stop, which on recent rides has almost been instant. As soon as the West Coast Custom CEO is done talking to you in that room, you maybe wait a few seconds and then off you go onto the last lap around the ride. The operations on this ride have been very impressive, and the queue benefits a ton from it. The line may look long from the ground, but it has the ability to move at a quick pace if everything is working properly. The last thing I want to point out about the operations is shortly after the ride opened, Premier Rides, the manufacturer of the coaster, made it so the trains travel and dispatch in the station faster. They also made it so where the train waiting to unload can move forward while the newly loaded train is moving. Before, you had to wait for each train to stop before anything could happen. It's hard to explain what they did, but they saw the ability to increase the rider per hour numbers and took it. Now, moving on to the layout. And the layout for West Coast Racers is an interesting one, and it makes the most out of the space it had available. This coaster packs so much into this little area, especially with how there's 2 tracks side by side almost the entire time. There's plenty of elements that cater to everyone's interest. Hang time and airtime moments, launches, show elements, theming, smoothness, and so much more. The speed it goes isn't too fast, but enough to get you through each element with some kind of excitement. Although it has a rather tall height limit for guests at 54 inches, it can be enjoyed by those who may fear intense rides and can be assured this is a more mild experience at the park. Everyone has their favorite moment on this ride, but I think the best one is the high five elements, more specifically the first time you go through it after the first launch on the white track. It's an unexpected moment since the launch is gradual at first, but then you are whipped into this rather intense airtime moment. There are plenty of other great moments on this ride, and it all contributes to the re-rideability score. Re-rideability is a huge factor in determining a ride's rank in the park. There are many excellent coasters in the park with impressive stats, layouts, and records, but I think West Coast Racers has the highest re-ride score. Coasters like X2 and Tatsu are amazing and unique rides, probably 2 of the most popular rides the park has to offer, but after a few rides, they can both take a toll physically and mentally on you. While it may be fun, there's only so many times you can experience that enormous pretzel loop on Tatsu before you've had enough. West Coast Racers, although because it may be new, can be re-rode many times without getting tired of it. The smooth and mild nature of the ride layout makes it a desirable choice to go on many times. Tie that into the fun moments like the airtime on the high five element, the hang time on the corkscrews, and the 4 launches gives you an impressive ride. There's nothing on this coaster that I can think of where one would say, I had enough of that. This opinion could change over time as the coaster ages, but for now, once more people experience this amazing new coaster, I feel like it will change how it is ranked in the park. I've heard many stories as to how this coaster is rising up in the ranks for many individuals. Every repeat ride I've had on this makes me reconsider where I initially had it ranked. Every time I place it higher and higher on the list. West Coast Racers, again, is a unique coaster and contains many elements that guests find popular on other rides throughout the park. The park must have taken good surveys because, again, West Coast Racers pulls elements from many of the coasters in the park. The launches and hang time from Full Throttle, the airtime and racing element on Twisted Colossus, and one could even say the smoothness from Goliath. This may not be the ride everyone runs to in the morning or have hours-long lines on peak days, but it's a coaster that will almost never have low satisfaction. I can't say this enough, but Magic Mountain did a tremendous job with this ride and land. They even had 2 amazing companies to work with, West Coast Customs and Premier Rides. I encourage everyone to try and get on this coaster during their visit to the park. It has many exciting elements, a long duration, and strong re-rideability. Of course, these are just suggestions as to why West Coast Racers could be the best coaster in the park. Ultimately, it comes down to you, the guest. Everyone has their own likes and dislikes about a ride in a park, and that's what creates the diversity in a park's ride lineup. Six Flags Magic Mountain offers the most roller coasters in one park on the planet, with each one being different from the last. Guests have so many options to choose from at this thrill capital of the world. West Coast Racers was an excellent addition to the park, and it offers new elements to experience while borrowing and improving upon those already found in the park. This coaster was custom designed to fit specifically in this area of the park, and it offers an experience that's hard to find in other parks across the globe. Let me know your thoughts on Magic Mountain's newest coaster, and where you would rank it out of the incredible 19 roller coasters in the park. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to the channel for more updates on Six Flags, Magic Mountain, and other happenings at Southern California theme parks.